Alright, hello everybody. My name is Altanic. I'm going to show you another guide today. This is going to go over how to set up a clothing project for the Killing Antidote in Unreal Engine and Blender. This is going to get you, get your mesh, get it into Blender, get it into Unreal Engine, and then get it into the game. I wasn't going to go through like a full fresh clothing project setup, but I will show you how to set up the tables and basically give you all the information that you need so that when you are starting fresh that you know how to set it up. It's not too difficult, um, but there's a couple key things that you need to know, right? So I recommend for something like this, I recommend starting kind of small. So as you can see on my screen right now, I've got a bunch of like tiny pieces. There's some rings, fingernails, basic piercings, stuff, very small little ornaments. This is really good for kind of getting the whole reins of this. Um, they're very small. They basically only map to like one bone on her body. The weight painting is essentially like there's nothing really you need to do other than map it to like one bone entirely, so you don't need to worry about doing like gradients or anything like that. Just kind of keeps it simple. It's going to help you like just kind of get the hang of the whole workflow so that you can get used to putting something on the mesh, exporting it correctly, importing it correctly, setting up your table, and getting it in the game. So those are really important steps. And if you try to get a little bit too ambitious off the gate, then you're going to end up giving yourself a massive headache because you're going to be fighting with these tools that you're not very familiar with yet. And you don't want that. You don't want to just give yourself an aneurysm um, because you're struggling to learn the tools. So something like these are really good to start with. They're going to keep you from just pulling your hair out pretty much. So without further ado, I guess let's just jump right into it. So one second. Sorry if I'm a little like stuffy and gross sounding. I'm just I don't know why. But anyways, so what we have here, right? We've got Jodie's body, and I've got, these are all things that I've already kind of laid in place. This is an existing project I'm already working in, but you're going to need her body, right? And you're going to need her skeleton, which is hidden, but now it is there. These are her bones, and we need those. So on Steam, there is a guide. If you go to the, Killing Antidote community tab, you go to guides, you go to the workshop, and you go to actually this one here, getting started with challenge map creation. Sounds a little unintuitive, but the project that you need is linked in here. So we're going to go in this guide, go to this developers kit here, and then there's a Google Drive link. You're going to go open this, and this just pulled up on my other monitor, but I'll bring it over. So there is, it's going to link you to this project, the Killing Antidote animation and hair. This is the one that you want. So you're going to download that, and it's going to give you a zip file, right? So let me see if I can sort of try to quickly find something like that. So, all right, so I don't have exactly the one that you're going to download, but I have essentially the same thing. So this one is Sagat's map development kit. And whenever you download this animation and hair project that I just showed you, you're going to see inside the zip these config, content, and this U project file, right? So these are this is the Killing Antidote kind of dedicated project. And we need to put this into Unreal Engine so that you can work in a TKA ready kind of package. So if you already have 4.27.2 installed, then you should be able to go to your documents and you'll see a folder labeled Unreal Projects. So what you would do in this instance, I've already got a whole bunch of projects here, as you can see. All you need to do, it's very simple. We're just going to create a new folder. You're going to call it a new thing, and then you will just take these items, just grab all three, and you're just going to copy it directly into this folder. And that is going to give you all the content and files that you need to pretty much get going. Then you can go into Unreal Engine, and let's say you're starting from a basic. You've never opened this before yet, but that's okay. Even if you just have a like non-TKA setup right now, all you need to do is click File up here, go to Open Project, and now that you've created that folder with your new project files, you should see something new pop up here. It'll have this kind of generic logo. If you don't see that, which you may not, all you will need to do is click on Browse. Then you can go back into your Unreal Projects folder here, and you can, let's say it was in that, a new thing. You can go in here and just manually open this U project file, and then that's going to actually launch the proper TKA. Okay, so now that that's good, so you should have your project in place. You got to open your project. I've got one open already that I've been working in, and so we need Jody's skeleton. And let me turn this down a little bit. Give it like one notch. Okay, perfect. All right, so we need to go to the content folder, project, and I believe it is character Jody body. There it is, female. You need this female skeletal mesh. So the way you're going to get the actual Blender ready version of this file, you're going to right click on it, you're going to go to Asset Actions, and you're going to export it. This is going to let you export a raw FBX file of Jody's mesh and her skeleton. So you can do this, save it anywhere you want to, and then we can close out of that. Now we can go into Blender, and you can import Jody's skeleton here. It's pretty much just drag and drop. Wherever you just saved that Jody FBX file, just grab it and drag it straight into Blender and then import it. I I don't think I changed any of the scaling and stuff whenever I did this, so I pretty much just dragged and dropped it right in. I don't think that'll be a problem if you don't change any of the scaling values. But if you were doing stuff like guns and stuff, that does matter. But so far from what I've experienced here, I don't think it was necessary to rescale, but that's kind of beside the point at this time. So now you should have Jody's mesh, right? You got her body, and then you'll have her actual skeleton. Okay, so now we are looking pretty good. So let's say we want to do something really simple, like we just want to put like a nice ring on her finger or something. Like maybe we just want I don't know. Let's see. Do we have anything cool here? Maybe we just give her this one I highlighted, right? Just do maybe this one. This one's kind of cool. So I'm gonna grab this. I'm just gonna bring it over to her body, and I'm going to try to just kind of do this roughly so it doesn't take forever. If I can get the camera in place as well. So I'm going to take this. Some of your meshes may come in like giant. You're just going to have to kind of rescale it. But we're just going to make this super tiny because this is going to go around her finger. Okay, we'll go, let's say we're going to put it, I don't know, maybe we put it on like the second knuckle of her finger or something, right? Like something like that. Okay, we're going to rotate this. Kind of just, I'm not going to sculpt it or do anything crazy. I'm just going to make this kind of fit her finger. Okay, so I kind of messed it up because I rotated it before I shaped it entirely, so I'm gonna kind of have to fix that, which is a little annoying because I'm trying to be fast, but yeah, it's kind of sometimes hard to do this accurately, but you can always do like sculpting or something if you need to and kind of do it more accurately. But let's get rid of her skeleton for a second. I'm just going to hide that so I can actually see what I'm doing. Um, and we're just going to line this up with, let's say, yeah, like that middle section of her middle finger. So I'm just going to keep reshaping this. Squeeze that a little bit. Let's kind of center it around her hand. Make it maybe a little bit thinner. Just kind of so it wraps around her finger nicely. I mean, like somewhat nicely. It doesn't have to be perfect right now, but you can always, um, you can always sculpt this and make it fit her finger really nicely. Sometimes what I do whenever I'm doing rings like this is I'll actually go inside her hand like this, and then go into sculpt mode, use your grab brush, and I'll just kind of push these out to the edges of her finger. So um, that way you're not really pulling on the outside of the ring. You're basically just pushing the inside of the ring out to the surface of her hand. So I guess I said I wasn't going to do this, but we're going to do it anyway, just so I can show you what I'm talking about. So that should be fine. I'm not going to go crazy like I'll refine it after the video, right? So let's just make this not completely crooked on her finger. Okay, and that's pretty nice, right? It's going with the angle of her hand. Um, it's pretty well shaped. So we're looking pretty good. I think this is it's actually not bad for a pass. Okay, so you've got like a ring in place. And we need to weight this to Jody, right? This needs some weight painting, or else this is basically just going to kind of float in space without being attached to anything. So what you want to do is click on Jody's body, and if you go into weight paint mode, she's going to turn blue. You can see right here there's some kind of vertex group in her foot that's highlighted right now. And if you click on this green triangle down here, the data tab, and you can see all of her groups. So if you click on the bottom here and just use your arrow keys, you can scroll through all of these different groups, right? So for Jody's fingers, we see that there are already a couple vertex groups here related to Jody's fingers. So I need to find the one that's right in the middle of her finger like that. That's perfect. So this is middle O2L. This is the group that we need to assign our weights to our ring, right? Our ring needs to be mapped to this bone. So, and it looks like maybe I kind of missed a little bit of the alignment here, but that's okay. Since this is pretty much going to be like a pretty static item on her hand, you don't need to worry too much about any like bending or anything like that because it's in between her knuckles. So this is pretty much where it's going to stay where it's at. It's not going to deform at all. Um, so we can't assign any vertex groups to this yet because it has no parent, right? This is a fresh mesh. Maybe you have something that already has a skeleton, but in this case, this is an item that did not come with any kind of prepackaged skeletons. And if that were the case, you would need to unparent it or do some kind of weight transfer. But in this instance, we need to parent Jody's skeleton kind of to this ring, right? So that, like if I click on her nail here, you can see that these nails have these vertex groups, and that is because her skeleton is a parent of her nails. So we need to click on the ring, and then we click on her skeleton here. I'm going to do an armature deform with empty groups. Oh, sorry. So you press, I don't know if I said this, press Control P, and then parent to armature with empty groups. When you do that, this ring should now show up with some vertex groups. It has been parented to the armature. Now we can go into edit mode on our ring. We're going to press A and highlight all the vertices of the mesh. And then we're going to find that middle O2, I guess this is her left hand, so it's going to be the middle O2 left. So that'll be this middle knuckle on her ring finger. We're going to select it there, and we're going to assign it. So now, if we go into weight paint mode again, we should see her ring is red now. And if we start scrolling through the other vertex groups, everything is going to be blue except for the middle O2L, which we saw flash just there for a second. So that's a good thing. That's what you want to see. That means there's only one vertex group that's acting on this item. And that's good. If there's more than one other vertex group, like maybe if this ring was over on her other hand first and then you kind of brought it over here, it might still be mapped to the other fingers. So then if you put it in game, maybe it'll kind of be floating out of place and it doesn't really look right. So you've got the weight painting in place now, and we've parented to the skeleton. So this is really all that needs to be done. It's actually pretty much that simple. You just parent it to her mesh, and then you apply your weight painting, and now you're good to go. Now, like I said, this is kind of like easy mode with like rings and stuff like this. This is really basic. If you were doing a shirt, this would be a little bit more complicated. You could do something like a weight transfer, which I can show you real quick. If you have like a shirt or something like these pants, you would click on Jodi's body, like click on her body mesh, and then let's say you click on the ring. Now you've got both of these highlighted. You want to click her body mesh first and then your ring. And then if you go into weight painting, there's an option here where it says weights. You can drop this down and you can do a weight transfer. There's a couple different like parameters. These vertex mappings can change the kind of projection of the weight transfer. And then also the source layer I usually set to by name. This can usually give you a little bit more accurate weight transfer. Now I might have even just messed up my weight painting just now by doing this, but that's okay because we can just double check that real quick. So I'm going to scroll through. I imagine that maybe there's something going on, but I want my ring to have basically 100% weighting into this middle O2 vertex. So I'm going to also just remove any potential assignments to these other nearby bones that might have been applied during the weight transfer. And I'm just going to make sure that it's only assigned 100% to middle O2. So we're good there. We got the parent and we got the weight painting. So those are two really, really important steps. Now we are actually pretty much ready to export this and put it into Unreal Engine. So now you're going to click on your ring, you're going to click on a bone of her skeleton to highlight everything, and we're going to File, Export to FBX. I've already got some stuff here, so this will be, let's do left middle finger ring. And then, so I've got a preset of some packaging settings. So I'll show you guys this real quick. I have this one, piercings. So what you want to do, since for this export we highlighted the ring and the bones, you want to make sure that you limit the selection to only selected objects. This is generally fine to keep. I haven't had any issues with this yet, but you can limit it to, just the armature and the mesh or something like that if you need to. Under transform, These are all checked, and apply transform. This will be unchecked by default. You want to make sure that this is checked. Under geometry, I don't think I really changed anything here except for having the apply modifiers set. And then under armature, this one is actually pretty important. You want to make sure that you have only deform bones checked and uncheck add leaf bones. And then also uncheck animations here. So once you've done that and you've got this kind of export file set up, you should be good to go. And then we're going to export this as an FBX. So that's great. So that happens extremely quickly, right? Because this is a very small mesh, not much to export. So now we can go into Unreal Engine, and I'll kind of show you what is going on with that whole Killing Antidote animation and hair project that we got from Unreal Engine, and how exactly you kind of want to configure it, how the tables are going to work, stuff like that. So I already pretty much had that project at one point loaded in here. And whenever you're opening this up for the first time in your project, you're going to see probably like a bunch of folders here. They're either going to be at the root of content like this, where you see TK Workshop Close and Workshop Tomb. Those were originally part of that kit. Or they might even show up in your mod folder. I may have actually moved them out of here. I think that is the correct location generally. But so the one you need is this workshop clothes, this stuff here, specifically these tables right here. You really want these. So what you want to do is you want to go inside their sample and you want to grab these files and you're going to copy them. You can just highlight them with shift click and then do Control C and copy all of these items. You're going to go back into mod where your file is being stored. This is my project. It's called Snake Bites because originally it was just some lip rings. So we'll go in here. Now this is our project folder. I like to put those tables kind of right at the root of my mod project, and then I have kind of everything that I'm actually working on designated in their own folders inside of my main project folder, right? So we just made a new ring. So I have a folder here with rings. And sorry, I'm actually getting a little bit ahead. So let's keep focus on the tables, right? So you've got TKA mod table. I believe this is one. This is really, you don't need to adjust this one. You can change the caption in the description. This is basically just going to show you like a title and description of the mod whenever you're like in the main menu of TKA and you look at like your mod list, and it kind of gives you like a breakdown of every mod that you have installed and who made it and their names and stuff. That's kind of what this shows. So you don't really need to change this one. I honestly don't normally change it. The main ones that you're worried about are mod clothes table, clothes group, and this data asset here. So the main thing about the data asset is that when you open this, you're going to see this chunk ID. Now, if you watched my map creation video, you'll notice that this is very similar, because it is very similar. And you'll see chunk ID. You want to make this just some kind of number. It doesn't really, I don't think it really matters what number you choose, but just make it something that you can kind of easily remember and identify, because once we start packaging, you're going to start seeing like a whole group of pack chunk IDs. So you want to make sure that the one you pick is something that you can kind of easily recognize quickly. Just that way, so you're not, importing the wrong pack chunk and then you're like, why isn't this working, right? So I made mine 25, and that's pretty much all you need to do there. You don't need to edit any of these other settings. Just make sure this chunk ID is set to a number you can remember. And then I believe you can rename this file. I actually don't think you have to rename this file, because this is basically just like a chunk designator. But I always make mine the name of my mod, and then I do underscore chunk ID, and it's just for naming's sake. So these two here, closed group and closed table, these are the really important ones, and these are going to make sure that your stuff actually shows up in game So clothes group, as you can see, I've got a couple groups here. So these are actually Jody's wardrobe groups. So whenever you go into the mirror and you're in the wardrobe and you can see all of the different categories that are listed in the sidebar, that is what these are. So this would be, this is like my group of stuff, right? This is your group of stuff. So then when you go into wardrobe, and you're scrolling through all the different tabs of clothing sections, you'll see my group of stuff in the sidebar. So you want to create a clothing group for your clothing items. So I've got a couple different groups here because I've got pierced and poised. This is all my facial piercings and earrings, body piercings, jewelry. This one is containing all of my rings, toe rings, and stuff like that. Nails, this is all of her manicures, different nail art designs. Sets was for combination sets I made before the update. And then clothes were things, whenever I was kind of messing around with clothes sculpting, I was putting everything in this group. So you can have more than one group. It'll create additional clothing sections in the wardrobe. Um, but if you're just doing one thing or a couple things, then you just need one clothing group, and then make sure that you rename the row and you rename the make sure you rename the row. So you won't be able to, you'll edit the group name here in this actual text box. This will assign the group name on this section of the table, but the row name, I make these match. So I just make the row name match the group name that I set, and then tick the box for owning. This makes sure that you don't have to kind of go out into the game and unlock it. So this will be, whenever you download the mod, you'll have the mod in your wardrobe. So this is pretty much the main thing you want to know about these. So just make sure that your row name is set, and then make your group name here, make this match the name of your row or vice versa, and then you should be good. And that's pretty much what you need to know about the clothing group. The trickier part a little bit is the clothing table. So now I'm going to open mine up. I've got a ton of stuff in this clothing table, and I think maybe it'll make for a good example of some common stuff that you need to know. So it actually takes a little bit to upload or to open because it's so large. So yeah, I've got about 145 different items inside this clothing table. And so I'll show you, let me grab, we'll just use one of my earrings or another ring, right? Since we're already kind of using a ring. So okay, never mind. Let's just grab one of these. This is fine. So this is one entry in her table. If you ever need to add another clothing entry here, like maybe you've got more than one clothing item, all you have to do is just click this add button, and it's going to create new rows here. The name of the row I don't believe is actually very important. You can kind of name the row whatever you want. I make it the same name as my skeletal mesh because it's a little bit easier. Just to like identify things, but you just create this new row, and then you've got type names here. So these type names can also be found if we go back a couple pages in the guides. This workshop mod creation, if you go in here and we go to this clothing section, you can actually see a list of all of the current clothing items in the game. So these are the actual type names that are in this table here. So when you see this type name section, these are relating to these names. So they need to match exactly because you're referencing, the game files. So I have all of my stuff referencing the new accessory slot. This lets me basically stack all of my accessories infinitely, and it eliminates the need for me to create a bunch of different combinations of different piercings. I can just make a piercing, and then you can kind of mix and match them freely without any kind of restriction or removing other clothing items. So I'm making these ACC. You've got a couple things in here like morph weight, heel height. These are related to heel height is for like if you were making shoes. I don't have any experience with this yet, so I can't tell you how that works. Um, then you've got your mesh, your skeletal mesh here. So we haven't imported our ring yet, but we did create a skeletal mesh earlier whenever we did the export of the ring and the skeleton. So this is what that ring will be eventually. It'll take this mesh slot. You've got color adjustable if you're using the dev shader, which I can show you guys in just a second once I'm kind of finished with this table. Then you've got the icon for your item, which I can also show you how to set that up. And then you've got your group. And this group is really important because this is basically the name of your clothes group. So you set up your item uh, in the clothing table. Sorry, I guess. Oh, my bad. So you're going to add your new row entry in the table, and then in this group section, this name is going to match the name of the clothing group that you've set up here in your table. So I've got a couple different clothing groups, right? And if I pull this down, you can see that my different items are assigned to other groups here on this right side. You can see Pearson Point sets, jewelry, nails, etc. So these are all kind of being grouped into multiple different sections. So before we get a little bit too deep, now I can kind of show you the practical application. So I'm going to close this out for a second, and we're going to go back in the rings because we made a ring earlier. So this is going to be into my hand rings, and this one was on her left hand. Yeah, so this is her left hand. I've got a couple things in here already. I'm gonna go to, let me see, Blender, Pearson Poise, hand rings. So I'm just right now, I'm just navigating to my, where I saved that, and there it is. That's my FBX, the one that we made earlier just a second ago when we exported our ring with our skeleton. So I'm gonna grab my ring, and I'm gonna drag this in because I want to export it to this folder. You're going to get a pop-up here. If you did everything right and you did all the parenting, all of the weight painting correctly, then this should pop up and automatically recognize that you're importing a skeletal mesh. But it's going to say that it doesn't recognize or it doesn't know what skeleton to bind it to. So if you remember earlier in the beginning of the video, I did show you that we navigated to that content project character Jody folder, and there actually was that female skeleton in that folder. So this is the one we're using. I know you see that there's like 4 different ones here. That's because I have been experimenting a lot with this particular project. But if you're using a fresh project like I showed you earlier, then the only option you should have is female skeleton. And this is the one we're going to check. This is Jody's skeleton right here. So you're going to assign it to female skeleton. Unless you're importing really anything else, I actually don't go through and check all of this stuff. I pretty much just assign the skeleton here in this box, and then I import all, and it pretty much just works. So now you can see that it created some new assets. You've got a physics asset, and you've got the actual skeletal mesh. This is our actual ring. So if we go in here, we can see that the ring is over here, and yeah, we're kind of chilling. So I'm going to scoot this over to the side because I want to assign a material to this. But, you know, I want to make my ring, I want to make it so that you can change the color of the ring so that I don't have to make it, you know, gold or chrome. You can make it gold or chrome if you want to. So the way that we can do that, this is pretty cool. So if you go back to the root, I'm going to leave this up here for a second. You can see this is my file browser. We're going to go back to the root of content, go to project, go to material, and you see that there's this shader clothes item, right? So this is actually like an RGB compatible material that Johnny and the devs made. So if you use this material on your clothes, then when you're in the clothes table, when you're in this menu, you can actually check this box for color adjustable, and your clothes will be you'll be able to change them to whatever color you want when you're in the wardrobe and you use the dye function. So what you want to do here is create a material instance. You want to click on it, right click, create material instance. Then I usually take this, you can copy it, go back into your mod folder. Maybe you've got, this is kind of right now my texture material folder. So you can go into, maybe you have a materials folder, go in there, and then just paste that in there. So now you've got an instance of that material that you can customize. So if we open this up, you'll see a couple different things. Now, right, I want my rings to be kind of metallic. So there's some things that we want to check. We want to use the metallic texture, and you want to check this box. And then we also need main texture, we need metallic texture, and we need our normal texture. So we have a normal map, we've got our main, and then we've got our metallic. Now the way that the metallic works is it's kind of different. So this actually uses a sort of like optimized version of assigning roughness and metallic settings. It's based on color, and it uses the RGB channels to assign roughness and metallic. So pretty much red is related to metallic. So the more red that your color is in this slot, the more metallic it's going to be. Blue is um, shading, it's occlusion, so it affects kind of how your material responds to shading and lighting. So the more blue something is, I believe maybe it has stronger occlusion. That's one I haven't experimented with yet. Um, and then green is your roughness. So that is how shiny or matte your material is. And actually, the less green it is, the more shiny it is because it's less rough. So if it's less rough, it's more shiny. And if it is higher levels of green, then you're going to get a more matte texture. So whenever I'm creating my piercings or rings, I actually use, let me see if I can find it in my list. They got them right here. So these are actually variations and shades of like pink and magenta, and these will actually give you really nice kind of metallic materials because, right, they've got really high red values and they've got high blue values, but they've got no green. So what you end up with is a very metallic material that is very smooth and reflective, and then it interacts with lighting. So I can show you here, if I switch between some of these different options, you can actually see this become more or less reflective and more or less metallic. So I want to give it probably this one because I want it to look like a nice metallic ring. And that's pretty much all you need to do. Now I've got a couple here. Maybe you want to actually give it like some proper normal mapping and stuff. And that's something that we can do too here. So if I go back, I guess it's kind of covering a little bit, but I'm still in my content browser here. So this office pack, this is where I got like my current metal material shaders and stuff. So let's see, if we go into metal, there's a couple things here. So if I make this metal color, this is the base color, if I make this my main texture, it's going to make it gold. But I don't really want that, right? Because if this starts out as being gold and then you go to change your color in the game, you're going to get these kind of blended colors of gold with, blue or whatever color you're trying to make. So you actually want your main texture to be as white as you can possibly make it. So I'm actually going to use this metal texture. This is actually for metallic if you were setting up a material, but I'm going to use it as my main texture so that I can still get the white, but if you look closely, sometimes you'll still get some of those kind of base color texture details. And this really only applies to like piercings for me in this instance. Um, that might not work as well if you were doing some kind of other clothing, but in this instance, for really, really small accessories like this is kind of fine. And then this is a normal map here. So I'm also going to use this metal normal map. And this should just apply, you can maybe kind of see it down here. This just gives some really cool little micro scuffs and scratches, and it just makes it look a little bit more like metal. Um, and now that's pretty much it. So now you've got your own little dev material set up with your own, base color textures, some kind of metallic variation, and then you've got a normal map so that your texture has depth. And then we can save this, and we can go back here. And yeah, so we've got our ring here, and I want to give it that new material that we just created, which should be in this pack. Yeah, and this is our shader that we were just working in. So I'm going to give this that material. And now we've got a nice shiny metallic ring, and when we get in game and we tick the color adjustable box in the table, this will be fully RGB. So this is good. This is pretty much all we need to worry about because there are no physics or anything like that. But the other thing is your physics asset. Now your physics asset is usually created by default whenever you import a mesh into UE. It's going to kind of auto-generate one for you. But the one thing you just kind of want to be aware of is that for static items like this that don't actually have physics, I have noticed that there are some times where if this capsule, this collision capsule, if this doesn't cover the entirety of your mesh, what'll happen is like if you're looking at your clothing from a specific angle on the camera, it'll suddenly it'll disappear, it'll turn invisible. So what you want to do is, I don't really have to here, but I'll show you, is you just want to make sure that this capsule is basically just covering the entirety of your mesh. This isn't going to affect the way it sits on Jody's hands or anything like that. This is basically just a collision capsule. But this also affects visibility because the actual in-game camera is making a collision with this capsule for visibility. So yes, so just make sure that your capsule covers the entirety of your mesh, and then you should be fine there. So now we've got our skeletal mesh in, we imported it, we've got our material on it so it'll be nice and shiny like a nice chrome ring. You've got physics assets here. This is going to make sure that when you're taking screenshots and you're getting really close up or you're looking at it from other angles, it doesn't turn invisible. You've also set up your clothing group. Hopefully you've made your group, set your name, tick your owning so that you'll have your clothes when you're in the game. And now we can go and we can add this to the table. So I've already got a bunch of rings, so I'm going to try to keep this in line with everything else that I'm already working on. So give me a second to kind of find where that is. And I see here, these are all my left-handed rings. So I'm going to go in this section, and I'm going to insert a new row below. This is going to make sure I can keep it in line with everything else I'm already working on. And then let's go and find where that is named again. So I've got new hand rings, left hand, and we've got our left middle finger ring. So that's what I'm going to call this, left middle finger ring. Okay, and then I'm going to pull this back up a little bit, select it, and now we're going to put that ring into the table. So make sure this is highlighted and you're going to see that everything is blank here. So I've got the left middle finger ring. I'm going to assign it to the mesh slot. Just click this arrow, and as long as you have this highlighted and then you click the arrow, it's going to tell it to basically like put that mesh in that section. Now in the type name, I'm going to use the ACC slot because I want this to take an accessory slot so that it doesn't replace Jody's gloves, or it doesn't replace like a shirt or something like that, right? ACC is just going to kind of, it's not going to overwrite anything else. So this is good. So you've got the type name and you've got your mesh. We want this to be color adjustable because it's got the RGB shader. So we're going to tick this. This is going to make sure you can dye it when you're in the wardrobe. We don't have an icon yet, but I will show you how to do that in a moment. And you've got your group. So I want this to appear in my pierced and poised jewelry section, which you can see is here in my clothing group. So I'm assigning it to this section of the group and not any of these other ones. I just want it in jewelry. So now that is pretty much done. So let's say, for example, that what I'd like to do a lot of times is actually go into the game and I'll take a screenshot of Jody wearing my item. So I've got a couple examples here. Let me pull this one up. So this is actually just like a screenshot of Jody, and then I cropped it and cut this kind of part out of her face, right? So I'll show you something here if I can find a good photo maybe. Okay, here's a good one. So this is just a screenshot of Jody. This is a basic 1920 by 1080p. I've not done any editing to this, but I want to use this as my image for the ring right now, because that's all I've got. So I'm going to edit this. This is just Windows Photo Editor, built-in Windows Photo Editor. Nothing crazy, no fanciness here. You can click on that edit, click on free, go to square, and then just pull this up until you're at 256 by 256. This is the resolution you want. Now you can just move this into place so that it shows her entire ear, and then you can save this as a copy. I'm not going to save it because I've already got this set up somewhere else. But if I wanted to use this, now I can just go back into my file browser and I can grab the image and drop it straight into my Unreal Engine browser. Now I've got my 256 by 256 image here, and I can set it as the icon for my clothing item. So now when you're looking in the wardrobe, you'll actually see this picture, for your clothing. But I'm going to get rid of that because I don't want that to be my icon right now. So that's okay. And it just got rid of my clothing table. So let's see. So it should still be in here just to make sure that that didn't do anything weird. There it is. Left middle finger ring. So yep, so you've got your type name, you've got your mesh in, you've got your color adjustable, and you've got the pierced and poised jewelry. This is your group name. And now you are pretty much set. So we can go ahead and package this. So I've got Unreal Projects. I've got a folder for my piercings mod, and then I created a folder named packaged, and then I just basically send all my packages directly to this folder, so there's no thinking about it. Every time I'm testing something, I just send it straight to that packaged folder and just let it kind of rewrite that directory. So this will take just a second, so let's navigate back to that folder. Unreal Projects, we're going to go to Piercings, Packaged, Windows No Editor, TKA, Content, Packs, and now we've got our pack chunks. And if you remember from earlier, the pack chunk 2025, this is our actual mod, so this is the one that we're going to put in our mods folder to test the game. So mine is named Altanic Snake Bites because that is the name of my folder in my mod project. Now if I change this name, I can name the pack chunk that instead, but it needs to match the name of this folder here that's containing all of your assets. So whenever that pack chunk finishes packaging here, the pack chunk is going to be renamed to Altanic _snakebites. And that should finish up here pretty soon. This only takes usually a moment to actually package. Yeah, and it's actually almost done. Um, so those are the pretty critical. Yeah, there we go. So just finished. This will update the time, 2:44. So we can take this. We're going to bring it into our mods folder. I'm going to rename it Altanic Snake Bites because this is my mod. And now we can go into the game. Okay, so now we are in the game. Let's go test and make sure that our clothing shows up inside TKA. So I've got a little map that I've been working on, and I have a mirror in here, and I'm just going to kind of go there real quick because I kind of like the lighting and stuff. So we're going to go here. This was something I built to test some of the batch spawners because they've been acting a little funny in this new update. So, but I have a mirror in here, so this should work. So cool. So now we're in the map. Let's just go over to our mirror here. And now, so we put that piece of jewelry in the jewelry section, and there's no icon, so it should show up as just like a white square. So if I scroll down to the bottom, because I've got a ton of mods, Pierce and Poise jewelry is here. So you can see these are all of those clothing groups that we created in the clothing group table. And then if you click on jewelry, you'll see there's a new entry with no icon. I wonder what that is. So if we click on this, we should see a new ring on Jody's finger, which you can see right there, which is great. And if we zoom in a little bit, if I can get it to focus, it's a little TAA is kind of smearing the shit out of it. But yeah, you can see that this is there. It is kind of chrome-like and a little cool looking. And if we right-click on this, I can try to get a view of it. The camera isn't aligned perfectly, but if you kind of look at the corner of the screen there, let's see, I can make this red. And now the ring is red. Yes, so it is fully color adjustable. It's going to take any color that you make it. You can gradient it, whatever. It's going to be totally supported by any of the variations that you set. And that is pretty much it. Now, if I really wanted to, make this nice, I can go down here. I'm going to increase the aperture. I'm going to launch Unreal Engine Unlocker. I'm going to inject this. I'm going to toggle visibility. That's going to refresh any TAA. And now I can get a really nice, clear picture of the ring. So I'm going to maybe do something like this. I'm going to take a screenshot. And now, if I go into my screenshots folder, which I just brought up on a different monitor, so just 1 second while I refresh it to pull up the image. It's loading. Loading, loading, loading. Okay, there it is. So I just opened it. Now I've got my image. I'm going to go into Edit. I'm going to make this a square. I'm going to resize this to 256. And I'm just going to put it, like right there. And we're going to save it. So now this I can actually use as my icon image in the wardrobe. So if we close TKA now, we don't need that to be opened. And let me refresh this again. We're going to go back into Unreal. I've already got my selection here. So I'm just going to click this magnifying glass. And this is going to route me directly to the folder with my ring in it. I'm going to take this, bring it there, and I'm going to assign it as my icon. Now everything is in place. You'll have your icon, it'll be color adjustable, it'll be in your group, and it'll be taking the accessory slot. And now you have pretty much done everything that you need to do to start working and building even more stuff, um, like I said, I actually really recommend doing stuff like this, like rings and jewelry, bracelets, ankle bracelets, toe rings, facial piercings, even earrings and stuff like that. You can some of the earrings that I've made, I've just been taking different circular pieces and just kind of lining them up. Then you can kind of join these all into one item, and you can basically make entire like little sets of earrings that Jody can wear. So you can totally do stuff like this. This stuff still isn't like that hard. You're still using basically the same process for weight painting that I showed you earlier, except these, these are all being mapped to Jody's head instead of maybe some specific finger joint on her hand. Um, but it's basically the same thing. Um, so yeah, that's an option. There's some pretty cool stuff, and yeah, once you get even more familiar, then I did something like this the other night where I built this kind of chain link. This is actually like I actually put this together and made some ovals that are stringing together like this. You don't have to go that advanced, but you totally can. And then this is still also relatively easy to map. This is all just linked directly to her head. Um, so you've got lots of options, even with really simple, basic jewelry like what I'm showing you here. And like I said, and the main thing is just so you can get familiar with the process. You want to get used to the workflow of importing to Blender, setting it up on Jody's body, parenting to the skeleton, um, weight painting correctly, exporting and then re-importing to Unreal Engine, and then setting up your skeletal mesh item inside of these tables. So we just got the successful repackage. So let's go ahead and let's see the new icon that's in the table now. So this updated, now it's 252 instead of 244. Rename this to Altanic Snakebites. It's always going to match. It's always going to be the same name because it's always going to match the file path folder of your actual assets. So now when the game reloads, which takes a second. All right, great. So now we are back. We're going to go back to that map again just because it's cool. It should load pretty quick, very nice. So now, if we go back to our wardrobe, we should see, under jewelry, that now there is an icon. It's no longer a white square, now it has a proper icon. It's fitting within the bounds of the original kind of selection box. If your image is bigger than 256, what'll happen is the image will actually still work, but you'll basically see it as like the original resolution of the image. So if this is like I don't know, even like 300 by 300, right? If it's just like slightly off a little bit like that, what you'll see is it'll still look like a square, but the square will be kind of like outside the bounds of the box. Um, so it's not like it kind of breaks it, but it just doesn't look correct. So as long as you're using 256 by 256, you'll get this really nice, clean image of the item in your selection category. So pretty cool stuff. And yeah, so that's um, that's pretty much it. As far as that goes, I know I kind of jumped around a little bit, but I hope that this was still pretty helpful for you guys. Um, if you have any questions, feel free to join our Discord and ask some of us. There's some other guys that are really good with Blender, and if you're trying to do clothes or something, they can help you a little bit better with that. If you want to do clothes, I definitely recommend doing some research on like sculpting and maybe even some like modifiers that you might use, like shrink wrap or things like that, to properly mold clothes like to Jody's body. But yeah, if you just want to start with something basic, do some rings, do some piercings, do a hat, do a bracelet, maybe a hairpin, maybe a hair accessory, or a pair of earrings or something like that. Maybe something that doesn't require physics yet. things like that. These are really good. Um, yeah, to just get you going, get used to how this all works, and get in the flow of adding something in, and yeah, and just making sure everything is working in the game like it should. And then you can kind of escalate and keep getting bigger and bigger. Start adding physics. Start creating hoop earrings that can actually swing around on Jody's head instead of staying in one place. And then maybe eventually, once you get used to that, then you can start making like beads, and they've got individual beads that'll swing in different ways with their own kind of physics or section on the proxy mesh that you might use. Um, so yeah, there's definitely some options, but I recommend just start simple and kind of escalate from there, and kind of keep doing harder and harder things. And once you get used to this whole workflow and you start doing little stuff like this a whole bunch, then you'll get super familiar with it, and then you're never going to run into any issues trying to import to UE or making sure it's taking the skeletal mesh properly, because you'll already be completely familiar with that workflow. But sorry, I keep kind of repeating myself. I'm kind of going in circles and saying that a lot. I just think it's really important to stress that, because I know a lot of us in the TK community are kind of new to all this, to Blender and Unreal Engine in general. And I think it was really beneficial for me as someone who is also new to all this stuff is to start small. So I think that's probably the best thing you can do, and that'll just, you know, it just eliminates any of those headaches, and then you get enough practice in that it becomes a little bit more habitual, and not something like you feel like you're doing research constantly on kind of trying to refresh yourself. You're just doing these really small basic things that you can just continue to export and continue like repetitively doing that flow over and over, and then it just kind of gets ingrained in you. um, but yeah, so I hope you guys found the video helpful. I hope it was useful. If you have any questions, I'll put the link in the Discord. Feel free to come join us on Discord and ask us some questions. And yeah, but thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Peace.